In the midst of the discussion as to what the Decepticons are up to, we see Spike looking, I'll say very directly at the monitor. And then suddenly, he makes an announcement. Quote unquote, "Fortress, I propose to negotiate with Galvatron." And then we proceed to get a whole string of shocked-looked faces with coloured backgrounds behind them, and it is wonderful, quite frankly, the reactions we're getting.
Yeah, having given that we're recording this episode a little bit after April 1st, like I feel like this would have been a really good like April Fool's gambit from Spike, and he's like, "Ah, got you, not really." But no, apparently not April the 1st in this episode, and he was entirely serious, which is just like, I am literally speechless to try and like understand or comprehend. Like I know he makes his best play as to why he has suggested this, and I kind of get it, but also Galvatron, this is like a really bad plan from like minute one.
So let's get on to what he is actually trying to put across then, because obviously everyone is shocked, and Spike makes it clear he's being serious about this, and he wants to arrange to personally negotiate with Galvatron in the hopes that the Autobots and the Decepticons can work together to build a new energy generation program. Which, on a surface level, Andy, you're like, given what we saw in the last episode, that, you know, clearly energy reserves are low, they've only got a couple of decades worth and such, you're like, okay, you know what? I can kind of get Spike's thinking, and maybe him having gone to Planet Sandra has maybe kind of hit him home far more than anybody realised. So if we're talking from a continuity perspective, I could totally get on a surface level why he is thinking this.
Yeah, oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely a certain level of logic to it, but also, like, let's negotiate with the party that literally blew up their home planet for energy. Probably not gonna go great.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that, actually, so let's get more of the conversation, because I did actually write all of it down, because I think it's very good for discussion. Chrome Dome says, and speaks for the Headmasters as a whole, saying, "Spike, you're dreaming. Do you think the Decepticons will agree to work..." Fun typo. It says, "Do you think the Decepticons will agree to work with Bus?"
Is that Scorponok now?
There you go. I'll try that again and do an edit on that. Chrome Dome speaks for the Headmasters by saying, "Spike, you're dreaming. Do you think the Decepticons will agree to work with us on energy development?" Spike responds immediately with, "We'll have to discuss and see. I have thought long and hard about this. We just have to negotiate with them. The Decepticons blew up Cybertron. They even blew up Mars," of which we, the viewer, get to relive the destruction of both planets briefly. "We fight for energy, but if we destroy more planets, the universe will be finished. During the destruction of Mars, the space bridge destabilized the forces of gravity." Shoki, the trainbot leader, then says, "That's right, it will become useless if the distortion is exacerbated." Spike then continues, "This proves the balance of the universe has been disturbed. To save the universe from destruction, we must join forces with the Decepticons to develop more energy. Please support the plan, Fortress." As far as reasons and justifications go, he's got a pretty good argument, as ridiculous as it does sound.
Oh yeah, I mean, he certainly makes a good play for it. Like, you know, who knew Spike was like the ace of his like high school debating society, like on the sly. We thought he was just an idiot mechanic's son, but apparently not. I mean, how far he has come from the days of like, you know, season 1 and 2 of the cartoon. Like now he's making, you know, these grandiose speeches about the future of the universe. Quite proud of him, to be fair.
Now, with Spike having pleaded his case, and also during the course of that, Andy, randomly like bringing up the fact that the space bridge is now very unstable, which is an element that is going to get explored further in this episode, but that's another detail that hasn't been mentioned before, and will definitely be having consequences as no doubt the series progresses. But the reason I mention this is because Spike's now pleaded his case, and I'm going to assume, Andy, that given the episode is what? If you include opening and ending, it's probably about 20 minutes, if that. That's the duration. Spike's soliloquy took up most of the broadcast time of this episode. So because of that, the narrator then very quickly chimes in and just says, Spike's earnest persuasion convinces Commander Fortress. It's one of the most obvious times when I've just thought, yep, that ran long, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very useful just segue into like, okay, well, let's skip to the next bit. This was quite nice and cheap to animate, so we've got more time for all these explosions later.
So, a communication from the Autobots via Teletran 1, which, I'm just going to say it now, I swear Teletran 1 was destroyed, but at this point I don't remember what continuity it happened in, so I'm just going to carry on.
Yeah, I guess that was season 3 of the G1 cartoon, so yeah, maybe they just kind of, that doesn't officially count here. Or was... No, I think it was G1, wasn't it? It wasn't like a rebirth thing. But yeah, anyway, as far as we're concerned, Teletran 1 doesn't exist anymore, so I don't know what's going on here.
For the purposes of discussion going forward, I will simply say, a communication from the Autobots via Teletran soon reaches Char. But before we see the Decepticon response to this, we get a conversation with Daniel and Spike, which unfolds as follows. Daniel says, "It's worrying." Spike's response, "Huh?" Daniel says, "But Dad, you're going to negotiate with Galvatron." Spike says, "That's right. I'm going as a neutral negotiator. I'm the most suitable person."
I mean, and again, this does come back to bite him quite hard. But like the idea that Spike is in any way neutral in this whole thing, like, I mean, again, this is a classic like, where is Marissa Fairborn question, because you know she could argue that she is truly neutral, like, you know, she's a space cop or whatever it is, like, you know, she could argue that she can represent humanity but also with a wider view of the universe. Like, Spike has literally been like aiding and abetting the Autobots for several decades at this point, so the idea of like, I am neutral is like, no, you're really not.
Bring back DevCon. Yeah. He'll be neutral. So Daniel then says, in response to that line that Spike is being a neutral negotiator, "But they're Decepticons!" Spike then says, "Somebody has to do it sooner or later. Peace does not happen by itself. Do you understand, Daniel?" To which Daniel, nodding, just goes, "Mm-hmm." I bring this up, everybody, because when it comes to parenthood, in the case of Spike and Carly with young Daniel, we've seen little glimpses of things happen, be it in season 3, be it in the show of this series Headmasters so far. We've seen some interesting things occur. Just keep in mind how Spike was talking to Daniel just a moment ago, because this parenthood conversation will continue later in this episode to a unique degree. So Galvatron offers an alternative as a show of good faith. He says Spike must leave the thing which is most precious to him on Earth. His son, Daniel. Suffice to say, there is a shocked look on his face. Which then, Andy, leads to the quote-unquote prison hotel room location that Daniel and Carly are in. Which leads to the following family conversation. Carly says, "Leave Daniel on Earth?" Spike says, "That's what he wants." Daniel then says, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to be separated from you." We then see him running to Spike and just sort of start hugging him, but then just like hitting his chest like he's pounding on it with the base of his hand. Spike, of course, Andy, as we've already proven, is a great motivational speaker to prove that everything is going to be fine. He then says, "Daniel, please understand. If you stay, negotiations can continue. If we can develop energy together, the Decepticons will stop attacking Earth." Of which my immediate thought is, Spike, you gullible git.
I mean, yes. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like, your sacrifice will not be in vain, son. Just like, I mean, you get the feeling that this is maybe like the actual, like, what's going on in Spike's head is just like, yes, absolutely, yeah, take him. Just like, yeah, go for it. You're never right. He
destroyed a freaking Autobot archive in season 3.
Yeah,
he needs to be punished.
Yeah, and I mean, there is, that would actually, I mean, given that it seems like this story is going to continue, like that would be the great kind of comedy episode of like Daniel completely accidentally destroys the Decepticons from the inside just by like, being kind of kept under their watch, that somehow he just like ruins everything for them.
So now at this point, Daniel is proper crying and just says, I want to stay on Athenia with you and Mum, but I'll stay here if it helps everyone. Spike, I'm going to try and mimic exactly how the Japanese voice actor said this, okay? He literally goes, Daniel. And that's the line. Daniel then responds with, I'll be alright on my own. I can do it. And then Spike says, thanks for understanding. Carly then says, I'll stay on Earth with Daniel. And Spike then says, Carly. And they embrace. So Andy, I've got many questions. But out of all of them, I'm going to pinpoint one question I need to ask you as to how perhaps this situation could have been quelled quite a bit. Daniel has to stay on Earth. Leave him at Autobot base with the other Autobots.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that you've got to assume that Decepticons would have some stipulations around, like, where, but I don't know. Like, I mean, do they really care? Like, I mean, it's really just a ploy for like Spike to, because you've got to assume Galvatron's thought process here is like, well, he's not going to say yes to this. Like, he's not going to say yes to like, you're going to be separated from your son. So it's like, well, this is the great point to just, put a line in the sand that we ain't doing nothing here. So I suspect it probably kind of messes with Galvatron's plans. But like, oh, you are willing to get rid of your son then? Okay, cool. I had not planned for this. But yeah, like, I don't know. You'd assume that the Decepticons would then like make stipulations as like, no, he's got to stay under house arrest or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not like they're sending him to Webworld or something. It's like it's Earth. Earth is fine. Like,
they're leaving him on Shangri-La Island.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than Planet Sandra. So there's plenty of worse places he could be. So yeah, I mean that is kind of the flip side of it. Is like it's not the worst fate ever of just like, well, yeah, you just get to go back to Earth. It might be a bit boring, but hey ho. So I guess you can argue like Spike's case there of like, this is not really such a big deal if it's just like a temporary thing.